Hey everyone, I am Yvette Lloyd, host of Life Heard Podcast. I have an amazing show coming up. I'm really excited about it. But first, I would like you guys to go to Life Heard Podcast and subscribe, and also our like page. And tonight we have Winnie with us. She's going to talk about so many things on how to rebirth yourself and become a better version of yourself, healing, and just learning how to do just trust the process. That's what we're going to do. So, hey, Winnie, how are you?
I'm great, Yvette. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Life Her podcast.
Thank you so much. So, we're just going to get right to it. And I want to talk about how you have the secret of us trusting the process.
Oh, great. Okay. So, what I found myself is that I live in a world. I'm sorry, I'm just going to go straight to it. Where a lot of old white men set the rules. Okay. There I said it. Yeah. And let's just laugh about it for a second, because some of these men, they are exemplary in their service. There are some really great people. There are policemen, firemen, soldiers who give their life to humanity. But there also needs to be a rebirth in the way that we relate and connect to one another. And not that I want to overthrow the rules per se, but I want all of us to soften and laugh and love and have a lot of fun in this world as women, because we've had thousands of years of patriarchy, which is do what I say, right? Follow these rules. And I think it doesn't matter what your skin color, whether, in this country, we have like the Native Americans, people of European descent, Asian descent, African descent. Doesn't matter your original, ancestors, where they come from. We all have the same wound, which is our parents think they know better than us, and they have been telling us what the rules are and how to live. And you know what? Bless their heart, because if there were no parents, then we would not be here, isn't it? Right? So if there was no iPhone 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, there won't be iPhone 13, right? So for me, is recognizing this tremendous gratitude for all that our parents and society has done for us, but also looking at how can we make the world a better place. And I think let's start with embracing more feminine energy into the world.
Yes. That is just so needed because I find women walking in the path of being this strong woman all the time. And it has to be a point where we can release that portion of us and become vulnerable and feminine and just release and just be like just let it go.
Yeah, right. So I happen to have 4 science degrees and 2 from MIT, and they're really hardcore. It's like computer science, finance, marketing, and medicine, right? Like I have memorized so many medical textbooks. And so I feel like I have been wearing pants my whole life, almost like my whole life. It's like trying to survive, take another degree, learn another, get another certification. My resume gets longer and longer and longer and longer. And that's why, before we came on, Yvette's like, okay, what's your title? I said, how about lover? Call me a lover, because I just want to be a lover.
I know that's right, Winnie. Just in the process of us tapping into our feminine energy, what is some of the advice that you have for women that's having trouble doing that? Because that's a long pattern of us being dominant and strong and being able to lead the way. But just switching over to that, you have trust issues and you don't have the confidence to feel as though you are able to even go through with it because it feels uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm going to go ahead and ask the audience this question, right? I don't know if there are any single mothers out there who feel like they have to wear the mother and the father hat, like they have to wear pants. And then of those who are married, how many people feel like they need to push their man because for whatever reason they have more degrees or they make more money, they're carrying, the weight of the family on their shoulders. And I think that, for me, I've always had more degrees and make more money. uh and but the irony is I don't actually want to make money. I want someone to pamper me. I want to be a baby. I actually want to go to the beach. I actually want to get massages. I want to go like have afternoon tea with my girlfriends. I want to bake. I want to clean. I want to garden. I want to swim. I want to dance. I want to sing. There's so many fun things, take vacations that I want to do. But what I find is I'm caught in this rat race where, you got to gain visibility. You got to go on social media. You got to post three times a week. You got to be consistent. And there are all these things that other people keep telling me, oh, Winnie, you need to do your hair this way. You need to change your wardrobe. You need to put more makeup on. And, you need to be more professional on your resume and XYZ. I feel like my whole life, people are trying to tell me what to do. And I don't know about you if you've ever experienced stress,
Oh yeah.
right? Yeah. So where does stress come from? Stress
Other
comes from trying to meet expectation, right? So then you're like, well, why is there an expectation to begin with? The
Mhm.
expectation is there because our parents or society put it there, right? So what if yes, we do need to pay the bills, feed the children, and drive them to school, but what if we can relax and trust the process a little bit more, right? Like, I think that, I don't know if the audience can relate, but we've been pushed to follow the rules, like cross the T and dot the I's and just the try to get 100 on everything, right? The woman, she got to look pretty, get her nails done and make money and bake cookies and do like all of those things. And what I find is, what if we don't go for 100%, right? What if we're just happy with a B, which is 80%?
Mhm.
And, there's this 80-20 rule, which basically says, I only need to spend 20% effort to get 80% complete. And to get the last 20% to raise the score from 80 to 100, I need to invest 80% effort. So, in other words, if I give up perfection, right? If I give up having a flat tummy, if I give up having, enough money to stay at 5-star hotels and take X number of vacations a year, if I give up doing my nails, like, what if we just downsize, right? What if we just downsize what we think we need in terms of food, entertainment, clothes, degrees? If we all just relax some more, then we have more time to do all the things we love, like hang out with girlfriends.
Yes. You know what I've learned over the years is living bare minimum is the most happiest feeling ever. Because it's like you don't really need much to be happy, long as you not trying to impress the people that's on the outside and feel like you have to actually fit in with them for you to be uncomfortable, because you know it's really not you. You're just doing it because society tells us to, or you feel like it's the proper thing for us to do, when in reality, I don't even want to be here. So it's like, for us to just be in a space where we're comfortable with ourselves and able to process actually what's going on instead of letting the world define us. We need to work on more just defining ourselves and just feel happy in our space. And it's needed a lot. It is needed. So, what is your actual secret for yourself for you to process all of this?
Yeah, so two things. The first thing is just sitting with myself and, taking this people pleasing mask off. And my secret practice is I put myself into a completely dark closet where I can't even see my hand. So I remove, not just unplug from the phone, the Wi-Fi, but that I remove all stimulation so I can't see or hear anything. It's kind of like being in a cave where there are no stimulations.
Hmm.
Because what I find is if there are stimulations, then my mind keeps going and going and going. And what we really need as a society is rest, right? Especially after COVID, we have so much burnout, right? Doctors, nurses, public school teachers, even lawyers, everybody is burnt out coming out of COVID. And, right now, the it's really alarming. There's like the 25% of teenage girls have dark, intrusive thoughts. And you think about how dangerous it is, right? That 1 in 4 girls have, possible suicide idealization. And why? Because we're pushing them to be perfectionists. Like they gotta look pretty. And oh my God, thank goodness I didn't grow up with social media. Okay, when I went to college, nobody took digital photos of me, like, throwing up over the toilet bowl. Okay. Nobody took pictures of me and of my spring break and bikini pictures when I was on spring break. So thank goodness I actually had a a college experience that's free from the public eye. But I think like these days, our children is like whatever they say or do can immediately be shared publicly, and that's very frightening, and maybe they had a fight with a teacher, a girlfriend, or a boyfriend, and then the next day the whole school knows,
Hmm.
right? So they have so much pressure. And so I think that, rather than feeling fear, what am I going to do about this because I have two teenage daughters, is to recognize that our children's prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until the age of 25. So what that means is they don't actually have the ability to soothe and regulate their emotions until they're 25. They don't even have the hardware. But the good news is they have mirror neurons. So what that means is that if the mother or the parent is calm, then the child is calm. right? So basically, if the mother has anxiety, the daughter has anxiety. If the mother is calm, the daughter is calm. If the mother is confident about her body, her career, she's not a perfectionist, she's okay with 80%, then we're also going to raise daughters that are okay with being 80%.
That's true.
Right? So really, we don't need to freak out that our daughters are at danger, but rather we need to calm down. We
Yeah,
need to calm down and say, okay, we got it. Okay, the pathway to helping the children is that the parents get therapy.
that is true. So, Winnie, with you having two daughters, how do you help them to not seek and look into society for them to not develop those dark thoughts? Because a lot of young teenagers develop those thoughts through other teenagers, and they have bullying and boys not finding them attractive, or just being, or really like them and just being mean. So how do you help your daughters get through that?
That's a really great question. So basically, I have a computer science degree, and I like to think of it as ones and zeros. So all of us have a light side and all of us have a dark side,
Right.
right? So the light side says, I am love, I'm abundant, I'm worthy. And the dark side says, I'm fat and ugly, I'm stupid, nobody likes me, everybody wants to hurt me, right? So this side is, I am safe in this universe. And this side says, uh, I'm not safe. It's not safe for me to trust anyone. So basically, it boils down to which side do you let win, right? Because we all have the angelic voice and we all have the dark voice. So instead of trying to solve the problem, because guess what? Control is an illusion. We don't actually have control of our daughters and their thought, but what we do have is the practice of sitting with our dark thoughts and sitting with our light. And why it is important to sit with our dark thoughts is because, I think Martin Luther King said, hatred cannot drive out hatred, right? Darkness cannot drive out darkness.
That's true.
Only light, only love can drive out the hatred and the darkness. So let's suppose I am looking at the mirror and I'm like, oh God, Winnie, you look so fat and ugly. If I try to hate myself for having dark thoughts, I'm just perpetuating the dark thoughts. The dark thoughts doesn't actually go away. That's why so many women are still having negative talk. But instead, if I love my darkness, right, what does that look like? So, my teacher, she teaches the ABCDE method, right? So A is awareness. Ah, here's my dark voice again. B is breathe. So let's all take a deep breath together. Inhale and exhale. C is compassion, right? Compassionate witness. So what does that mean? That means if you put 10 women in my shoes and 10 women were brought up in the era that we were brought up and had the social media and the magazine and watched the TV shows, 91210, whatever we grew up watching, okay? If you had the upbringing that I had, 10 out of 10 women would have this negative self-talk. So breathing compassion, it's like recognizing it's very human. Of course, I'm going to have this dark thought. Everyone has dark thoughts.
Yeah.
right? And then D is dialogue within. So what does that mean? That means maybe meditating and maybe writing down on the journal, like, how do I actually feel? And maybe unpacking, was it because my mother had body image issues? Or was I shamed by a boyfriend I dated when I was in high school? So unpacking some of the traumas. Why do I feel fat and ugly? This isn't who I really am. This is just a label that somebody gave it to me.
Yeah.
Right. And then finally, E is effective and empathic response, which is, well, you know what? I don't need that label. Right. Okay. Delete, 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 delete. And so, this ABCDE method is created by my talk therapist and spiritual mother, Dr. Raven Lee. You can buy her book on Amazon. And I also talk about in my book, which is called Honoring Darkness: Embrace Shadow Work to Nourish and Grow Your Power. And
Mm.
why it is so important to do this book is like, gosh, if you are a parent, you need this book, because when we heal ourselves and face our darkness, then we don't unconsciously pass this generational trauma. The way my mother treated me, I'm going to just pass this ball to my daughter, right? So as I am doing this work of shadow work, it's just realizing, wow, all these ways that my mom invalidated my feelings, I also invalidated my daughter's feelings.
Mm.
And the point of the shadow work is not to dwell on it, not to feel guilty about the bad ways that I had parented in the past, but literally that there is no time too late to change the way we show up for our children. Right. So I want to tell everybody some heart touching stories. So I work with a lot of women. And whenever I get a mom and they're like, oh, how old are your kids? And they're like, oh, my kids are 2 and 4 years old. I said, oh, I'm so jealous of you, because if you heal yourself now, then you don't have to pass all of that stuff you got from your mother to your 2 and 4 year old, because now my kids are 14 and 16 and the damage is already done. And, bless her heart, my client, and I love when my clients and students teach me things. She said, Winnie, 14 and 16 is better than 24 and 26.
That is true.
And it's so true. So I was like, okay, thank you, my clients, for enlightening me, because it's literally never too late. Even if your kids are 36 years old and you're listening to this podcast right now, you can still pick up that book and sit with your darkness, because when we take accountability of our anger and our fear, then we stop projecting that into the world.
Yes. A lot of people sense it too.
Yeah.
So it really you really deal with it on how people treat you, because when people sense it, that's how they're going to treat you, because they already know that you have that darkness within you, and it shows a lot of times, and we don't do it purposely, but it just comes with the lack of awareness that we have when we need to work on that portion of us.
Yeah. And a lot of compassion is really about giving space.
Yes.
Right. So, for example, like right now, there is a war going on in the Middle East, and a lot of people might feel all kinds of emotions like, oh, I'm powerless. Why am I born in a time where there's so much conflict in the world, so much divide across gender, age, ethnicity? Why are there so many anti-Asian hate, right? Like, for
Yeah.
example. And what I want to say is, so I'm an energy healer and also a traditional medicine professor. And what we say is what we see in the external environment is also inside our body, right? So when there is a war in the Middle East, which is the external environment, guess what? There's also a war inside our organs. So, for example, there could be a war between the liver and the stomach, or
Yeah.
there could be a war between the lungs and the liver. So, what that means is each of us, and this I hope the listeners are paying attention, rather than feeling I'm powerless with all the conflicts, racial discrimination, and war bombings in the world, is that if we all practice clean energy, which means doing yoga or qigong or breath work, where we regularly take responsibility for our darkness and transform that into the light, then eventually the organs inside our body will have harmony. And then we radiate the true harmony inside our cell tissues, our bones, our joints, our ligaments, our hair, our orifices, and we radiate that true love, light, peace into the world.
You know what? I see that you have 5 elements of healing with traditional Chinese medicine. What are some of those healing processes?
Yes, that's a great question. So, in our medicine, which has been around for thousands of years, the 5 elements is wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And they correspond with different emotions and different organs. So I'm just going to take the most common for women and the most common for men because it's easier to remember that way. So the wood element represents the liver, and also it represents the eyes, and it is impaired when there's anger. So this is the most common thing with women because guess what? Women are expected to be nice. We're expected to be sweet and smile, right? Men can get angry, but women, oh no, we're going to call her a BIT beep H, and we're going to call her a boss lady, all these negative labels that we put on women when they are a little bit passionate, okay?
Right.
So basically, what I find clinically is why do we have breast cancer, ovarian cysts, chronic UTI? All of these things are actually due to suppressed anger,
That's true.
right? It's like we're angry, like why we paid 77 cents on the dollar? Why there's so much Me Too? We have so much anger, and see, even talk therapy is at the mind level, right? Because the body keeps the score. So, every time we're underpaid, we're overworked, we have Me Too, right? All those injustices, they actually get stored, traditional Chinese medicine energetically in the liver, right? So, for example, one time I had a client, she looked me up on Yelp and she said, "Hey, can acupuncture help me restore my eyesight?" I said, "I don't know if acupuncture alone can restore your eyesight, but girlfriend, if you can accept the all-inclusive Winnie, then I will do my best." And she said, "Okay, yes." So my client showed up and she's like, I'm like, "Hey, how long have you had this decreased eyesight?" And then she said, "Oh, 3 months." I said, "3 months, huh? So what was the thing that pissed you off the most 3 months ago?" And then she said, "Well, I had a fight with my sister. And then she set boundaries with me. She cut me off." And I'm like, WTF, who is she? Why does she get to set boundaries and decide when I can and cannot talk to her? I'm angry at my sister. And so I took a deep breath and I said, "Girlfriend, here are your options. Option A, you can be right. You have every right to be angry at your sister. Oh, by the way, say goodbye to your eyes. And option B, you can forgive your sister and forgive yourself, because you must have said something that set her sister off, right? So you need to forgive yourself. Then maybe you can get your eyesight back. Which one you're gonna choose?
Oh my God, that's true.
And yeah, and so she said, okay, I choose to forgive my sister and myself. I said, good choice. And so, in one session, we did acupuncture, we connected to prayers, asked for forgiveness, right? Because we forgive because God forgives us first.
Right.
So it's like, okay, if you believe in Jesus, so it's like we are forgiven because already we are forgiven. Okay, without going too deep into this.
Right.
So if you believe in forgiveness is free, it's mercy. You just have to ask and you get it. That's it. I asked my girlfriend. I said, "Hey, you want to get your eyesight back? We're going to ask for forgiveness." And by the way, not human forgiveness. We got to get the good one from above. Okay? Are you willing to accept a prayer for the forgiveness that comes down? And she said, yeah, anything to get my eyesight back. I said, good choice. So like, literally, and I gave her a forgiveness practice twice a day, 15 minutes. And the next time she came back, just one session and her eyesight was totally restored. Now
Wow.
I don't take credit because she has to be willing to let go of the anger. And two, she has to be willing to accept the forgiveness from above, right? Because it's actually God doing the work. I'm just the tour guide, right? I always say you hire me to be your tour guide because it's actually your relationship with God that you can experience this transformation, right? It's how much you are ready to receive God, and I'm just the narrator. So
Mm.
yeah, so that's what happened. And so that's an example of five elements healing, where we connect a physical condition such as decreased eyesight with the emotion, which is anger. And then it's stored in a particular organ, which is the liver. And so we perform acupuncture to release the anger along the liver meridian.
Oh, it was so crazy. It seems like also the power of the tongue. It's like you have to watch what you say to people because it'll turn around and happen to you or someone close to you that you love. And from her being upset with her sister and whatever she said out of her mouth, it started to react on her.
Yeah, so I actually am, call myself the United Nations of spirituality, because what I find is it's great to have talk therapy, but if you can connect to the power that is beyond human realm, it is so much more powerful. So if my clients come to me and they're willing to receive the Bible, then I will say, the Bible tells us to control our tongue, control our mind, right? So, in this case, you are absolutely right. There's a Chinese saying is disaster come from the mouth.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, yeah. So all the time we get in trouble, it starts with the mouth. And before it goes to the mouth, it starts with the mind, because the sentence that comes out of the mouth is formed in the mind. So then it becomes controlling the mind. But here is where I need to get back to the masculine and the feminine, right?
Mm.
Because the Bible is a very masculine thing, right? So it tells you the rules. Okay, control your tongue, control your mind. It is true, we want to live a life as righteous as possible, because if we're not, we might lose our eyesight. But at the same time, the feminine practice is compassion,
It's true.
right? So compassion is, well, if you put 10 women in your shoes, 10 women would have said the same thing to their sister, because you guys grew up with a mother that was very controlling. your mother really liked to tell you to do this X, Y, and Z. And so that's why you like to tell your sister what to do. Your sister likes to tell you what to do. And you guys, the reason why you have this conflict was because of the parenting that you grew up with. Right. So the feminine aspect is, rather than being harsh and punishing about, okay, you got to control your mind. It's
Mm,
like, actually, there are studies that said if we try to silence our mind, it will lead to psychosis, right?
that's
So, yeah, because why do we have talk therapy? We have talk therapy because we need to validate the ego,
mm,
right? Because a lot of the times, you know, with racial discrimination, with Me Too, more than like we want justice to be delivered to the other person, step number one is we want to be validated that the injustice occurred, right?
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, more important than the punishment is we want the validation that somebody says, yes, I acknowledge that this is pain. This is unfair, and just validating it. So it's like when we have a dark thought, right? Instead of controlling the mind and says, shut up, dark thought, you're not allowed to speak. It's like creating a safe container so that I can listen to my dark thoughts and breathe compassion to my dark thoughts, right? So, for example, I have sat with my dark thoughts, and I'm a Jesus lover. And sometimes I get real angry at God and I start screaming. I'm like, why are you doing this to me? I'm tired. I keep asking you for this A, B, C, but you still haven't given it to me. And what I find is no matter how ugly I get in front of God, God still gives me forgiveness, mercy, grace, like all the things good. Like God loves me even when I'm ugly, right? So some of the shadow work is actually going inside, connecting to the deepest suppressed anger, the things that we dare not tell our friends, our sister, but that we tell this to God, right? We tell this to God, like, God, I'm so angry at you. Don't you know? This is my anger. And what's so funny is God will just kiss me and love me and hug me and just take all the pain away. I call this the baby pooped in the diaper and cries so that the parent can change the diaper. So I'm like, Jesus, I pooped in my diaper again. Come change my diaper. I made a mess again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, what a transformation at that moment, huh?
Yeah.
So, could you tell me about the transform of your life and discover the hidden benefits of shadow work?
Yeah. So oh my God, I used to be a monster.
Really?
Yeah, I used to be a monster mom and monster wife. I'm always telling my husband, you should do this, you should not do this, X, Y, and Z, and just hand out shame like candy. And, with my children, I think that, um, what's the word? Passive aggressive. It's like I
Oh,
I don't actually tell them you need to get an A and you need to be perfect, but because I expect myself to be perfect. So my children don't actually do what I say, they actually do what I do, right? So they're watching, even though I don't say you need to get an A on the test, but because I expect an A from myself. So my children put all this pressure on themselves, right? So when I did the shadow work, what I find is for the first time, I actually love myself just the way I am.
wow.
I don't need to change. I love even the ugliest like monster in me. And because I love the ugliest monster in me with the help of God, I stopped being a judgmental mom and a judgmental partner. And so for the first time, I'm able to love, I'm able to trust, and I'm able to be vulnerable and have these heart opening conversations with people.
That's good. You know, that's accountability is something that you took really for you to actually notice that. When did you start to notice that you need to make changes in that area?
Oh, yeah, it was ugly. It was an ugly wake up call. Let me tell the story because it's a good one.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, in 2017, I had a near death car accident. And before that, I didn't know anything about God, never meditated, never prayed. And so that's when I started studying how to be a healer. And in the beginning, I thought being a healer means love and light, right? So I'm just love and light, love and light, love and light, good vibes only, right? And then in couple years later, I actually had a divorce. And that brought me to my knees because I'm like, Winnie, look at this report card. Exactly how much love and light do you have if this is the status of your marriage? So that prompted me to do the shadow work. You know, there were countless, we call it dark night of the soul, where I just tossed and turned the first 3 months after the divorce, where I'm like, where did it go wrong? Like what I should have, could have, done, said, should not have said. And then 3 months after, actually, God told me one day, Winnie, you need to write a book about shadow work. And I was like, really? You want me to tell everybody about how ugly I am and all the darkest things that I've been hiding in my closet? And then so I've kind of procrastinated. And then, yeah, another 4 months later, God's like, get to it, Winnie. And so, yeah, so that's when I hired a book coach and I wrote the book.
Wow. So in this space today, where are you like mentally and spiritually?
Love that. So where I am is trying to figure out who I am, not because my teacher says so or my parents says so, the Bible says so, but really having this direct one-to-one relationship with God where I'm just asking God, God, show me the woman that you want me to be, right? Because if we look at the Bible, it's pages and pages of what men did, right? Like there's, I know there's like Esther and Ruth and, Mary, but still it's like so small a fraction of the Bible is about the grace of women. And so I feel like almost a book as thick as the Bible, but about how to be a woman needs to be birthed.
Hmm.
And so I know that, um, and you know what? Actually, I take that back. The feminine way is not telling people what to do. I don't think it's not at the mind level. It's not at the book level. It's the feminine experience of God is like right here. We're doing this in the podcast, right? Where we're having this open-hearted conversation. The feminine way is like hugs, love, women supporting women, women empowering women, right? I think that the the way that women, the wisdom that comes through women might not necessarily come in writing, but it's come through embodiment.
Hmm. Well, congratulations on the shift and just taking that time out for you to even make those changes. That is big. It really is. So I applaud you for making that shift for yourself because you kept saying I was so ugly. I was so mean. And it doesn't even seem like you were that way. Honestly, it doesn't. So you have a light over you now. So you're good.
Thank you for saying that. And what I mean is that God's love is truly unconditional.
Yes, it is.
And to be a light in the world, right, where there's so much racial discrimination, where there is so much war,
Mm-hmm.
each of us get to awaken that light. And how we do that is to surrender the darkness to God, right? So imagine that God is like a recycling machine, right? So it's like we compost the rotten tomatoes and the banana peels and animal poop, and then we turn that into beautiful fertilizer to
Oh,
grow flowers and plants, right? So imagine God has the ability to take all of our darkness and give love back to us.
mm,
So I think that's actually what the divine feminine is, right? It's like Mother Earth. We have that ability to take the rotten, the sick, the weak, the poor, and recycle that into abundance into the world.
yes, that is amazing. So, Winnie, do you have any new books or anything that just came out?
Yeah, so my first book is Honoring Darkness, Embrace Shadow Work to Nourish and Grow Your Power. And I'm currently working on my second book, which is called Unlocking Light. And this book is about healing at the soul, heart, mind, energy, and body level. And it's going to take however long it's going to take because I'm not doing the push, 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 do method. This
Wait, no.
this book is gonna go to the spa and get massages, and when it comes out, it's
Ooh,
gonna come out. This is God's book. Okay, coming out in God's timing.
I know that's right, Winnie. That is so good. So, how can people get in touch with you and connect with you?
Sure. So my website is mindfulhealingheart.com. And it's very easy to remember because mindful healing starts from the heart, right? So mindfulhealingheart.com. And if you want to process some of these deepest, darkest stuff with me, I would be deeply honored. So I have packages working privately with people. And I recognize that wellness belongs to the people, regardless of income level. So if the private session is out of your budget, I also have tons of group classes. So you can find that under events page. And I even founded a nonprofit because I want to just give it out for free. So check out my website. You can find very low price point group things or completely free things that are sponsored by the nonprofit.
That is amazing. Well, thank you so much, Winnie. I really appreciate you and just enlighten us on so much on how to process things, how to shift our lives, and how much love and light matters a lot. So I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight on Life Heard Podcast. Make sure you play back and watch this amazing interview with Winnie and also watch the other previous interviews way before tonight. Well, thank you so much.